Yo, what is up, guys? It's Cohen back here again today with another video. And today I want to go back over the NBA games from today. I'm not going to talk about all of them because there were a ton of games today, but I want to go over 6 games mainly: Suns, Thunder, Nets, Hawks, Wizards, Pelicans, Bucks, Raptors, Mavs, Jazz, and then the title of the video, talk about the Sixers, Lakers game. Um, there are some good games tonight. Like I said, I don't want to talk about all of them just because there were a ton, but there were a lot of good games. I'm going to start with Suns Thunder. That's Thunder, my favorite team. Really, I'm only talking about this game because it is the Thunder. It wasn't super consequential in the West, but the Thunder faced Chris Paul again tonight, who had a great season for us last year, an Oklahoma City Thunder legend in a way. He had a fantastic game, 32, 5, and 5. Really, it just came down to the fact that the Suns were missing Devin Booker. They missed him bad. They were up big in the first quarter, but once Chris Paul left, that second quarter was bad for them. We kind of demolished them. We ended up taking a lead going into the half, and we really just never looked back. This was a close one at the end. Chris Paul had a chance to tie it, send it to overtime, but he missed the three. Lou Dort played fantastic defense on him, and he still made Lou Dort pay a lot of the time because Chris Paul is just built like that. They just really missed Devin Booker's offense tonight, and DeAndre Ayton struggled badly. He only had 5 points, I believe, in 35 minutes. That's not what you want to see from your franchise center, your number 1 overall pick. But I think he's going to be okay. There's a lot of good players around him who I think can help him out. When you have good players around you, it helps out because even if you struggle, they help pick you up, so you don't lose that confidence or anything. He'll be okay. He's a really talented player. He's going to be fine. On the Thunder side of the ball, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander struggled tonight, but he scored a lot when it mattered, especially at the free throw line tonight, which was huge for him because last game against the Blazers, he really struggled from the free throw line in the clutch. He missed 3 out of 4 clutch time free throws. Thankfully, he made the one that mattered the most, I think, to make it a 4-point game, I believe. And even though he struggled shooting tonight, he had 21, 7, and 8. And if that's a struggling night from our franchise cornerstone, I will absolutely take that. He has been incredible. He's looked more aggressive recently, and I think it really shows in the fact that we're winning a bunch of games that I don't know if we would have won earlier in the season. So, shout out to him. Horford was a sniper tonight. Shout out to Horford. He just had a daughter. He came back tonight. He had 5 threes, 5 of 5 from 3, actually. Didn't miss a single one. He deserves a shout out. Lou Dort hit 4 threes. The Suns announcers spent all night calling him streaky, and he made them pay every single time, including a step back 3, which I did not know Lou Dort had in his package. That's amazing. Teo Maledon has been pretty comfortable starting too. He deserves a shout out. He started the last 2 games with George Hill gone. I believe it's a thumb sprain. Hope he comes back soon because I want him to keep building up that trade value. And Teo looked comfortable tonight. He had some clutch time plays. He struggled a little bit last game. I think he was just a little antsy first time starting. He's only 19, but I think he made all the right plays tonight, so he deserves a shout out. Next, Nets Hawks. I don't want to talk a lot about this game because there wasn't a ton to talk about. Just 2 main points. One, the big 3 had monster games and they barely won by 4 points in overtime. The Hawks are a good team, but when you're a contender like this and you have these 3 super talented guys, if they have monster games like this, you can't be winning by barely 4 points. It's just, you can't do that. You need to be able to blow teams out, and this Nets team just doesn't blow people out so far. They really need pieces. They need better bench pieces. This bench is just not it. They need a 4th guy because Jeff Green can't be that 4th guy. Joe Harris struggled tonight. I think he's normally that 4th guy, but you really need someone to come off the bench and score for you. And I think they'll find it in the buyout market. Expect them to be huge players for both that and the buyout market and a center. Maybe a JaVale McGee they could get in a trade from the Cavaliers or something. They just need a body. They need someone other than DeAndre Jordan, who really doesn't even look like a starting caliber center or maybe even a rotational center in the NBA anymore. He looks very washed up. He can't be starting for them. They need to replace him with someone else. The Hawks have looked better. They looked good tonight. Trae Young has really resurged in the past few weeks after he had a really bad struggle about starting a month ago, and into 2 weeks ago he struggled very badly after Steve Nash said he really didn't know how to play basketball. He's really resurged though recently. He's looking like the Trae Young we know. And a couple weeks ago I might not have even said he was an all-star, and now it's very clear he is an all-star. I never thought he wasn't going to make the team because it's Trae Young. He's really, really good. But it's nice to see that he's making that return to form. So, shout out Trae Young. Wizards Pelicans. This game I just want to talk about it because, well, first of all, I'll shout out Zion and Ingram. They both played great. This is how the Pelicans need to play because this team has a lot of potential. They just can't seem to find it on any night. They found it tonight. They beat the Wizards by 18, although Bradley Beal had 47 points, and they lost by 18. The Wizards need to look into trading Bradley Beal. They don't necessarily have to do it if they don't like the packages they get, but they need to look into it. They need to take offers and they need to evaluate them. And if you find an offer that's just too good to pass up, you need to pull the trigger, because I know you're missing people due to COVID. I know that Russ has played injured a lot of the season, and that Scott Brooks is your coach, who should be fired ASAP, in my opinion. But you can't have excuses if you're missing the playoffs, and Bradley Beal's not going to take these excuses. You need to look for a trade before he starts demanding one and he tanks his trade value. Like I said, you don't have to take it, but at least look into it. Bucks Raptors. This game was interesting mainly because in years past, this would have been like a marquee matchup, and it wasn't. Like, no one talked about this game, even though it was a pretty good game. Like, the Bucks won by not very much. It was fought down to the wire. Giannis played amazing. He had 24, 18, and 9 tonight, and I didn't hear anything about it. It was really weird. I mean, I guess it makes sense because they're playing the Raptors, who aren't very good this season, but the Raptors deserve some credit. Like I said, they fought hard. Norman Powell at 26. He's really turned it around since I said he couldn't play basketball anymore a couple weeks ago. I didn't necessarily say that, but I did talk about how he was having a bad season. He has really turned it around. It's good to see. And this Raptors team is fighting hard. It's looking like they could make that playoff push. I honestly don't know if they should, because I think a lottery pick would be huge for their long-term future. But, you know, you got to compete when you got to compete. And I just thought it was really interesting how, like, I heard nothing about this game. A game that 2 years ago or last year would have been like one of the most talked about games of the night, or like probably the most talked about game of the night, other than maybe like Lakers, Sixers, and no one talked about it. It was interesting. Mavs Jazz. This game was interesting because, well, first of all, the Jazz have now won 10 games in a row because they beat the Mavericks. And did I say Mavs beat the Mavericks? The Jazz have won 10 in a row. They beat the Mavericks. Rudy Gobert had 29 and 20. Jordan Clarkson had 31 points. Mike Conley had 17, 3, and 6. Ingles had 21 points. And Donovan Mitchell didn't even play tonight. They all put up these monster numbers. Donovan Mitchell didn't play tonight, and they beat the Mavericks not even like closely. They beat them comfortably. Like, this game wasn't close. Luka really needs help. Porzingis is very clearly still rusty, and this bench is just not it. They can't get production from this bench like they could last season. And I don't know, like, this was my big thing going into the season, why I didn't think Luka could win MVP. I thought he could put up the numbers, but I didn't expect his team to be like all that good. I thought they could be around like a 4 or 5 seed, but other than like if you're Russell Westbrook, who was the first player to average a triple-double in like a billion years, you're not going to win MVP if your team's like a 6 seed. It's not going to happen. The Jazz deserve a lot of credit. They're now first place in the West. They're very, very good. Like I said, they've won 10 in a row, and tonight was without Donovan Mitchell. Rudy Gobert is really good. Jordan Clarkson's the 6th man of the year at this point. Mike Conley is the best plus-minus in the NBA by like an unreal margin. Some people have been campaigning for him to be an all-star. He's not going to be an all-star, but he has been really good. He deserves credit for that, and this Jazz team has just been rolling, so take them seriously. Finally, I get to the game I really want to talk about, and that is the Sixers-Lakers game. We'll start with LeBron. He had a fantastic game. He was really good, and he really, if the Sixers didn't win, this would have been huge for LeBron's MVP case. I do think LeBron is probably second in the MVP race right now, behind Joel Embiid, who I'll get to in a second. But LeBron had a really good game. He balled out. He had that one foul on Joel Embiid that was a little, it was definitely a flagrant foul. I don't think it was on purpose or intended to hurt Joel Embiid in any way, but, you know, it wasn't very smart of a play. And I think he just didn't realize that Joel Embiid was like so high up in the air. He put a little too much force into him. He fell on his back. He ended up being okay, although it was kind of a scary fall. So I'm glad Embiid was okay. And he came back in and dominated. And I'll get to that in a second. AD played decently. I only say decently because it's Anthony Davis. He was really good by a lot of other players' standards. But when you're the second best player on a championship team and you're Anthony frickin' Davis, you've got to be able to play better. He just doesn't have the offensive consistency yet. He's still been playing great defense and stuff. Of course, it's Anthony Davis, a Defensive Player of the Year candidate, but he hasn't found his offensive consistency this season. And I don't know if it's because he's still tired from last season, although LeBron is super old and he's doing fine, although LeBron also has learned how to deal with that, going to the finals like almost every single year. Maybe Anthony Davis is just learning to deal with that wear and tear. I don't know, but I think he'll find that efficiency and he'll find that consistency again at some point. Dennis Schroeder really turned it up in the second half. He was a big piece for them. He had a big stretch where he was just abusing a good defender in Danny Green. He made him look silly a lot of the time, and he was a big part of why they came back big in the third and fourth quarters. But outside of those three guys, no one on the Lakers really to play tonight. A lot of guys were in foul trouble. They couldn't stop Joel Embiid, who I'll get to, like I said, and again in a second. I keep alluding to him because he was the star of this game. But the Lakers just needed those guys to step up, and they really couldn't. And that is a big credit to the Sixers defense, which is very, very, very good. When you have Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons, 2 Defensive Player of the Year candidates, you're bound to have a really good defense. I don't think anyone is surprised that the Sixers team plays great defense. Matisse Thybulle is an amazing young defender. Tobias Harris has really stepped it up on that end. I think he's always been a solid defender, but he stepped it up. Danny Green, like I mentioned earlier, is a pretty good defender. So they have a lot of great defenders on this roster, and it really shows when they play tough teams like this how people are just like frustrated. They just can't seem to get shots to go, and guys who normally score in like loads or like bunches just can't find that consistency against the Sixers. And that brings me to the Sixers, the team I keep talking about, the team in the title of the video. The 76ers are title contenders. I would not be surprised if this team plays in the finals. I would not be surprised if this team won the finals because this team is really, really good. Doc Rivers has been amazing as a coach this season. I think that he learned a lot from that 3-1 deficit blown. He seems to have these guys playing hard. They love playing for him. Like a lot of times last season, the Sixers kind of looked like they would give up at times playing for Brett Brown. This team's fired up. Doc Rivers like holds them accountable, and I think that shows a lot of the time. Ben Simmons got a lot of flack from a lot of people about not playing aggressively. Tonight, he had a triple-double. He played super aggressively. He played great defense a lot of the time on LeBron James. LeBron still had a good game, but it's LeBron James. There's not much you could do. And Ben Simmons was a huge part of why this team won. He was a great team defender tonight. Even if he wasn't getting the stat like a block or a steal or something, he was a huge part of why a lot of shots missed. He was making everything difficult in the Lakers. And for a player that's been getting a lot of slander, he deserves credit here. Joel Embiid tonight strengthened his MVP case. I think he is the MVP frontrunner. I think he is a Defensive Player of the Year candidate. And I would say after tonight, there's no question that he's the favorite. The Sixers are first in the East, excuse me. Like I mentioned, Joel Embiid plays great defense. He plays amazing offense. That mid-range jumper that he has is unstoppable. Joel Embiid is shooting 60%, like over 60% from between the three-point line and about 16 feet out. That's nuts. So that deep mid-range, Joel Embiid has like mastered it. It's like automatic almost, which is incredible for someone of his size, and not even of someone for his size, just of any player. The fact that he's hitting that many shots is incredible. He deserves a huge credit for that. He's been amazing. Really, a big thing with him this season has been that he has really improved his ability to pass out of double teams. Joel Embiid used to get double teamed, panic, and throw the ball away. Now, if he gets double teamed, he can either draw a foul off of that, which is another huge part of his game that he's developed. The ability of him to draw fouls on like any contact, especially with that swing through move that a lot of players in the NBA do, like Harden does. He uses that to get a lot of free throws. Embiid has really mastered that. And he's really mastered the ability to pick on bigs that just can't guard him, which is pretty much everyone. He's mastered the ability to get them in foul trouble and make them put in backup bigs who also can't guard him. He's just been incredible this season. And if he is not able to draw a foul there on the double team, he's able to pass out much better than he has in seasons past. He has a lot less turnovers. There still are 1 or 2 just because it's going to happen, but he really finds the open shooter, and if it doesn't find an open shooter, he finds a guy who then finds the open shooter. It's been really good team basketball from the Sixers, which is something cool to see with a team with a lot of star talent. Then I have to give a shout to Tobias Harris, who called game tonight. Shout out Kenny wearing the called game hoodie. Tobias Harris called game tonight. He hit the game-winning shot of mid-range. It was cool to see them go to Tobias Harris. When my brother at Ninja Bands on Twitter, he's a big Sixers fan, go check him out. He was like, Connor, where do you think that the ball's going to go? And I was like, I think it's going to go to Joel Embiid. And he's like, yeah, I think so. I think it's going to go to Embiid. I think he might miss the shot, but it's going to go to Embiid no matter what happens. And the ball never went to Embiid. It went to Seth Curry, who brought it to Tobias Harris, and Tobias Harris just nailed a mid-range jumper over Alex Caruso. It was a pretty well drawn up play. They got the weaker defender in terms of height on Tobias Harris. Caruso's a good defender, but when he's losing like 6 inches on Tobias Harris, he's just not going to hit it, or he's not going to stop Tobias Harris from hitting that shot. It was a good play. And then Lakers ran out of time. Anthony Davis threw up a last-minute heave. He couldn't hit it. Sixers won. And I think that these are the big wins that you need to get if you're trying to be a title contending team. And this Sixers team is legit. These Sixers could win the East, and I think they could win the NBA Finals. They're a really well-rounded team. They have great shooters around Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid, and Joel Embiid is playing like the best version of him we've ever seen. I think if Ben Simmons could step it up a little bit, that'd probably be huge for them, but I don't even think he needs to. If this team could add like a I think they need like another shooting big off the bench. Like I think that they could use like a Mike Muscala from the Thunder. They could use like a PJ Tucker. I think he would be a good fit for them. If they could just get like another like four, like a power forward slash center that could shoot off the bench, I think that they would be golden. I think that'd be huge for them. And they have a lot of star power. They have been there before. Well, they've made it to the Eastern Conference semifinals, but this team has playoff experience. They've got star power, and I think this team is ready to try and make a title push. I think they could win it. And if Lakers Sixers was a finals preview, sign me up. I'll watch this finals. I think it would be a great, really entertaining finals. A lot of storylines going into it, and yeah, shout out the Sixers. They deserve it. With that being said, I think that's all I wanted to talk about. Sorry that there was probably a weird cut in here somewhere. This is like the fourth time I've tried recording this because for some reason my computer just keeps shutting off. I need a better computer. But anyways, I think that's all I wanted to say. So I'll see you guys later. Real and say back.